Research within the diabetic world is up and coming, and whilst diabetes is known in its own right, not many people have a good understanding of the condition. And with cystic fibrosis related diabetes, it's even less understood. So let me try and simplify CFRD and explain to you why it really is the major secondary diagnosis within cystic fibrosis. Let's imagine I have a chest infection. One of the ways to treat a chest infection is to have high steroids. And while steroids are good to treat my chest, they do mean that there's a lot of sugar in my system, which then in turn means high blood sugars, which isn't good for my diabetes. And this means that little bit more management. So not only am I feeling rubbish from a chest infection, but in most cases it's likely that I'm also going to be having intravenous antibiotics, as well as the added steroids. It's essentially like micromanaging every aspect of my life. My dog wants to get involved in this video. He doesn't really sound like a dog though, does he? Managing everyday life is a little bit different for a cystic fibrosis sufferer. For example, we have to adjust doses of insulin to incorporate the lack of appetite and lack of food, as battling infection and side effects from antibiotics can often mean that we don't want to eat, and then we start losing weight, which obviously has an impact on our blood sugars. And this is perhaps one of the areas that people wouldn't necessarily consider when thinking about CFRD. Managing lots of complications and added conditions like diabetes under the umbrella of one diagnosis, which in my case is cystic fibrosis, can be very difficult and very hard to live with. Cystic fibrosis related diabetes is very different to type 1 and type 2, and it's really important to remember that. Speaking from experience as a young adult with CF and CFRD and many other complications, I know how hard it is to gauge when your blood sugars are okay. You don't want them to be really high and you don't want them to be really low, because then you feel awful. Well, apparently they're also speaking from experience. You know, I like to go out and have a drink with my friends, and I don't want that added worry of, if I have too much to drink, will my blood sugars go too high? Will I end up in hospital? I know how frustrating it can be. But with the correct care and support, it is manageable and it is okay. Alright, I think I'll leave it here for the time being. I hope this video has been somewhat helpful and given you a little bit of an insight to what life is like with CF and diabetes.